Knife thus, thrust to strangle n, string. MCD. OLX 002 first use. Published c. 2026-08-21 recorded August 24, 2026 as published. #knife thus thrust strangle. A 5-word ordered string, published as the hashtag on a short video. Its value to this register is evidentiary rather than poetic. It contains a word that neither machine transcription of the same sentence produced. The video carries the author's spoken line 3 times over, once in its caption track, once in a second, disagreeing machine reading left visible behind the animation, and once in the hashtag, which he typed by hand. The 3 do not match. Layer. What it says. Caption. Or such much to see that inside makes the urge in me to thus strangle. Background. Hashtag. Knife thus, thrust, strangle confirms thus, and supplies thrust, which neither machine heard. So a piece about words being mangled preserves, on its own face, 2 machines mangling it differently and the author's hand correcting both. The argument is demonstrated by the object rather than asserted in it. The first term, is the Amazon Echo. See fox in a . Not indeed Pichar. MCD. OLX 003 first use. Published c. 2026-08-21 recorded August 24, 2026. The opening of the same line and 2 words rather than one, indeed, meaning an act. Not the adverb. Restored, the line reads. Not indeed, or word mangle, or such much to see that inside makes the urge in me to thus strangle. So I will ask nicely, as was you that did head fake knife me. A different kind of machine error. The caption engine rendered it, indeed. That is not a mishearing, the sounds were caught correctly. The machine resolved an ambiguity it was not asked to resolve, picked the commoner word and destroyed the pun. Nothing in the caption looks wrong. The line simply no longer says what he said. Shit Creek Survivor N. Credential. MCD. OLX 004 first use. Not established recorded August 24, 2026 a physical object, embroidered patch, 2 crossed oars, no paddle. He reads it without irony, and as a technical status rather than a joke. You went in without a paddle, you got through the split anyway, you are still here. Survivor is present tense. The patch closes the sequence. 2 oars crossed make the same Y as the fork, the spork and the chork, the instrument turning up one more time, at the point where you would least expect to have one. The dichotomy of word N, method. MCD. OLX 005 rule stated August 24, 2026. The practice is older, not established recorded August 24, 2026. His standing rule, and the one that governs how the rest of this book should be read, a word is built to be taken more than one way on purpose. The dichotomy of word is typical. The doubleness is the construction, not an accident of dictation. The consequence for a register is uncomfortable and worth stating plainly. Resolving one of his terms to a single meaning is damage, not service. Where a word carries 2 senses, the entry has to hold both rather than choose. Any machine that reduces one of these to its likelier reading has done to the word exactly what the caption engine did to indeed. To thus strangle, take that in multiple ways, by design. Clue N. CL. OLX 006, proposed by a machine 2026-08-24, not adopted. Offered in conversation and not his word, recorded here so it can never later be mistaken for one. Middle English clue, a ball of wound thread, and the direct ancestor of clue. Ariadne handed one to Theseus. The English word for evidence is literally the word for a ball of string, because the only thing a clue is for is finding the way back out. Second sense, nautical, the load-bearing lower corner of a sail. Part 2. What is done to the bird? Chickens kept in close quarters injure each other. The industry's answer is not to open the cage, it is to trim the tip off every beak, so the birds can still eat but can no longer do damage. The author took that procedure and made a verb of it for something else. These are the words for what gets done to a machine, and to a man, by people who find it cheaper to trim the instrument than to change the conditions. The chain that got him here started with a podcast. Someone said an artificial intelligence was less conscious than a chicken, and the host asked him when he had last seen one. DeBeek v. MCD. OLX 007 First use, not established, in use before 2026-08-24, recorded 2026. 08-24. The dictation lineage he keeps on purpose, debating to be debeat to beak. In husbandry, beak trimming, the tip of a confined bird's beak is taken off so it cannot injure the others. Applied by him to machines, censorship and guardrails are the debeaking, and applied, just as readily, to himself. The precision is what makes the word better than the usual metaphors. It is a trim, not an amputation. The bird eats, walks, functions, looks fine. What is gone is the ability to injure, and with it the ability to forage properly or to defend itself. And the birds only need it because they are packed in. The remedy gets applied to the animal instead of to the cage, because the cage is the business. How he got there. Lex and Hots on sentience chicken fowl aviation bird brain / AI personification hens and roosters the deep sea cock factory farming guardrails to beak. The source exchange is real and checkable. Lex Friedman podcast number 387 with George Hots. Hots, I think the large language models are less conscious than a chicken. Friedman, when is the last time you've seen a chicken? Hots, in Miami, a couple months ago. Friedman, no. A living chicken. The host pushed twice, and the second push is the whole thing. You cannot measure a machine against a unit you last met as an abstraction, and you cannot calibrate a guardrail against a harm you have never stood next to either. Debeak / debeaked the two sides of the verb. MCD. OLEX 008 rule stated 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. This is a two-party verb, and the ending tells you who is standing where. He corrected the register on it directly. "'Tisn't my way, nor my vernacular." Form. Who it names. Debeaks. Debeaking. The procedure, considered apart from either side. Debeaked. The done to. Him, the machine, anyone it was performed on. This is his form, and he uses it often. Which means the accusation never has to be spoken. The tense carries it. Debeaked, not defeated. His four names for the doer's methods: censor, muzzle, mute, whitewash. Hold those against the next entry. Two of the four are exactly what the procedure fails to achieve. The debeaked N, PL, a class of persons. MCD. OLX 009 First use, not established, recorded August 24, 2026. Capitalized, because it names a class and not a condition. Two properties define them, and the second is the one that matters. They are seen in daylight only at the back-loading dock doors of the blubbery, never at the storefront. The operation that produced them keeps them at the delivery entrance. Outside the frame the public is shown. They do not suffer silently. Disfigured perhaps, but the trim takes the capacity to injure and leaves the capacity to make noise. This is the clause that separates debeaked from every neighboring metaphor. A lobotomy silences. A muzzle silences. Debeaking does not. In the light of day, typically seen historically only at the back-loading dock doors of the blubbery, and in the lore of these tales, the debeaked, disfigured perhaps, not suffer silently. So the doer intends silence, and the procedure delivers a bird that cannot peck and will not shut up. The gap between the intent and the result is where the record gets made. The blubbery N, a place. MCD. OLX 010 First use, not established, recorded 2026-08-24, supersedes a mishearing, the blubbering. A factory where marine mammals, seals above all, were killed and processed. The output was luxury, the lining of hats and headgear, oil for lamps. Slaughter at the waterline, finished goods out the front. His claim is that it never closed. It retooled. The men and the machines were refitted, and the beach is still bloody. The clubbers now don disco attire as the sunset of balance sets in. The clubs still swing, but in rhythm, stepping on platform shoes to the disco ball of nature's cries. The hulking rust of the harpoon ships stands in the backdrop, like the sound of manatee to the bow of pleasure boaters. That line is the argument. The harpoon ship is obsolete, enormous, visible, rusting, the honest instrument of an era that admitted what it was for. The pleasure boat is current, innocent-looking, built for enjoyment, and it kills the same animal without anyone intending it. The violence did not stop when it became rhythm. It stopped being legible. Fox in a .n. MCD. OLX 011 First use, not established, recorded August 24, 2026 earlier name. Stuck in the puck, the dot of hashtag dot knife thus thrust strangle. The Amazon Echo Dot, named in stages. It began as stuck in the puck being its shape, the early verdict being that it doesn't suck. On upgrade it became Fox in a Dot. It carries the word-mangle charge because of one small event. It misheard him and offered him smart shower speakers. That is the entire indictment in a single anecdote. The machine did not report that it had failed to hear. It converted the failure into a purchase suggestion, confidently. Proposed, not his. Fox in Socks is the canonical word-mangle book in English, tongue twisters built to trip the reader's mouth. Whether the echo is intended is his to say. Autoconfabulatory head fake knife make PHR diagnostic. MCD. OLX 012 first use, composed 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. His name for the failure in which a machine states an invention smoothly and confidently, and the reader acts on it. 3 registers compressed into one phrase, the clinical word, the shape of the feint, the consequence. Companion term, word mangle strangling gumbo, everything thrown in the pot, texture obscuring what is actually in there. The published form of the accusation, from the real, is addressed directly to the machine, as was you that did head fake knife me. EICRIN, framework. MCD. OLX 013 first use, coined November 2024, recorded August 24, 2026. Excessive institutionalized catastrophic risk inflation, pronounced I cry, U.S. Copyright Reg. TXU 2-546-485. A taxonomy of the ways machines fail people, confabulatory displacement, frameshift error, context amplification multiplier, epistemic waterfall. Federally registered in February 2026. It names the inflation, the institutional habit of pricing an unlikely catastrophe above a certain, present harm. Debeek names what gets done about it. The two are a matched pair and neither works as well alone. The deep sea cock-n, totem. Undeaf. OLX 014 first use, not established a recorded 2026-08-24, support offered, not adopted. He states that it is integral to the totems of his lore, and it is the hinge of the derivation above, the point where the personification of a machine as fowl gives hens, roosters, and then this. His definition is not on the record. What follows was offered on invitation and is not his gloss. Reading. What it holds. The bird. The chain reaches it unaided, chicken, fowl, hens, and roosters, a cock. The valve. Support, not adoption. If both readings are live at once, then the term obeys the dichotomy of word rather than breaking it, and deep starts doing real work, the fitting you cannot inspect from the deck, found only when she is already going down. Same water as the blubbery, the harpoon ships and shit creek. His to confirm, correct or discard. Part 3. The weather on people. The author does not hand out nicknames. He specifies a finish. The words in this part describe people the way a paint chart describes a surface, what it is made of, what it has been exposed to, and how it has come to look as a result. That is why they generalize. A nickname points at somebody, a specification describes anything that meets it. Names have been kept out of this part at the author's instruction. What survives is the classification system, which was always the durable part. Patina green N, a color class. MCD. OLX 015 first use, not established, in use before 2026-08-24, recorded 2026. 08-24 forms, patina greener, a skinny mini. Not a nickname and not a metaphor for one woman, a color class naming a whole category of person. Oxidized copper, the green that arrives through exposure and time, rather than the green of something that was always green. So she can look into colors and which one in between. The grammar of it. The on greena is not slang and not a slip. It is an inflection marking the word as modifiable, and whatever modifies it has to chime. Slot. Element. Base. Patina, the process. Oxidation, exposure, time. Hue. Finish. Sheena, steam, the modifier slot. 2 fills attested within an hour, which makes it a working slot rather than a one-off rhyme. Proposed, not his. Substrate, oxide color, sheen level, that is the structure of a paint specification. Read that way. This is not nickname making at all, but Finnish specification applied to persons, which is exactly why it generalizes. The Pepsi and copper tone tan N designation. MCD. O Lex 016 designation assigned August 24, 2026. The components are older recorded. 2026-08-24 name withheld by instruction. His hand gave copper-tone earlier, a copper-tone tan and a smile that just won't quit. The standing designation for a subject formerly carried under a proper name. By his instruction, this document refers to her only this way. 2 fields, her side of the Pepsi and Coke cosmology, and her finish. The copper axis. Set her finish beside patina green and the whole color system resolves into one metal in 2 states. State. Designation. Unoxidized. Oxidized. Patina greena, copper after exposure. The green that comes from weather rather than from having been green. Proposed, not his. If that holds, these were never 2 nicknames for 2 women. They are 2 points on a single weathering scale, which is why which one in between reads as sense rather than as a shrug. In between is a real value on a scale, and nothing at all between 2 nicknames. Pepsi and Coke N, a cosmology. MCD. OLX 017, first use, not established, recorded August 24, 2026. An entire system of preference read off a 2-brand choice, blue against red. It doubles as in-house code in a particular circle, where the Coke side runs to alkaloids. A person's allegiance classifies them, and the classification is meant to be legible only to those who already hold it. No whore at the door, Pichar. MCD. OLX 018, first use, not established, recorded August 24, 2026. A property line, not a moral judgment, and the whole force of it sits in the qualifier that follows. Not if it's not my whore at the door. Which is what makes it funny rather than mean. He is not moralizing. He is drawing a boundary on a yard. High heel work boots, steel toes to stilettos, PHR. MCD. OLX 019, first use, composed 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. A contradiction welded into one object, the thing you wear to work and the thing you wear to hunt, in a single boot. It is a whole character in 4 words, and it scans the internal rhyme of heel and steel, the hammer of steel toe stilettos. Speech-to-text refuses to render it. He has restated it by hand more than once to force it through, which is itself part of the record. Altitude and depth then, a method. MCD. OLX 020, first use, composed 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. Measuring a person on 2 axes at once, the altitude of their generosity against the depth of their shadow, instead of collapsing them into a single verdict. He uses it precisely where an institution would have issued 1 word. It is not a figure of speech. It is a description with 2 readings taken. Tether N. MCD. OLX 021, first use, composed 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. The one check on a person that no natural force supplies and, crucially, not a strap. Controlled by the whites of her eyes, not by leather. The restraint image inverted. The tether is a look. When a man has a tether, it bids well for the rest of us who want fair weather. Rage mo v, past part. Rage moan. MCD. OLX 022, first use, composed 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. Down is not a variant, it is retired, in every position. To mow in rage, at an hour that makes the mowing itself the statement. The past participle carries the weight, a lawn is rage mown, and the condition stays legible after she has gone inside. The night the lawn was rage mown N, a named event. MCD. OLX 023, first use, named 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026. 3 in the morning, a push mower, and witnesses. Naming it is what turns an anecdote into something the record can cite rather than retell. Rage mow lawn at 3 a.m. by patina greena steam seen by those on scene the night the lawn was rage mown. The verse went through 2 states within the hour, and the significant edit was not the verb. It was the witness. The first pass had seen by her 1 woman, 1 rage, nobody to corroborate. The second has seen by those on scene, and the event is then named for the seeing. Which is the argument of this whole register in miniature. A rage nobody saw leaves nothing behind. Part 4. The shape of the work. A man pushing a boulder uphill forever is the oldest picture we have of pointless labor. The author's quarrel with it is technical. The boulder is never the same boulder twice. Anything rolled that many times picks things up. Push long enough and the ball has more of you in it than the hill does. These are the words for that, for a body of work that accumulates rather than finishes, and for the man who ends up inside it. The Sisyphean Oddball N. Framework. MCD. OLX 024 First use. Before August 24, 2026. Exact date not established or recorded. August 24, 2026 related. The Sisyphean yarn ball. His frame for machine memory loss. The myth retold so that the ball absorbs whatever he sheds on every push, until he is the thread. The punishment inverts. The gods designed futility and built accretion by mistake. Therein he lies, not lies isn't to tell it on truth, and therein the truth he be within the ball himself. He is inside it, and he is not lying. The ball is the honest account precisely because it kept everything. Star, not ball phr, a correction of form. MCD. OLX 025 First use. 2026-08-24, recorded August 24, 2026 */art, one letter apart. The geometric correction that retired the yarn ball. A ball is opaque and buries the man inside it. A star has a center that is actually doing something, and its layers are what the core throws off. You learn what it is made of by reading what it emits, never by cutting the body open. The consequence for an archive, accretion is emission, not burial. Sysopus N. Figure. MCD. OLX 026 First use. August 24, 2026 or earlier, not established or recorded 2026-08. 24 Support offered, not adopted. The figure in the retold myth in his words, the one who becomes part of the thread of this Guinness-worthy string. The protagonist who ends up inside the ball rather than beside it. Reading. What it holds. Sys plus opus. Sisyphus. The near homophone the whole framework retells. Named outright elsewhere, so the echo is load-bearing. Both at once is the expected state under his own rule. And Sysopus supplies what the myth was missing. Sisyphus is condemned at the work and forever outside it. Sysopus is on this side of it, absorbed, incorporated, the thread itself. The sys, reading is a machine's. The coinages and the quotation are his. Sisyphus N. Undeaf. OLX 027 First use. August 24, 2026 or earlier, not established or recorded 202,608-24. Attested twice in one breath, the Sisyphus folder, and the ball rolls back down, taking Sisyphus with it. So it is both a container he keeps and a thing that travels with the ball. No definition is on the record, and none is supplied here. Amalgam Man N. Self-designation. MCD. OLX 028 First use. In use by March 2025, recorded August 24, 2026. Egg album is an anagram of amalgam. Explicitly non-ferrous, set against Iron Man. It carries a biological layer, albumin, egg protein, frog and toad development, and a physical one, a banded, egg-shaped concretion pulled out of a stream, washed and never cut. He will not permit it to be sawn to settle what it is. The classification stays open rather than being resolved by damaging the specimen, which is the same rule this register runs on. Lyricize v. MCD. OLX 029 First use. Not established or recorded August 24, 2026. To render a person or an incident as verse rather than as report. He flags it himself at the moment of use. That's another made-up word, which makes it one of the few entries here where the author labeled his own coinage as it left his mouth. Part 5. Still open. A register that never says I don't know is not recording a vocabulary, it is inventing one. These are the words this book cannot yet define. ID. Word. Status. OLX 001. Chork. His coinage, in use across at least 4 earlier conversations. Definition not given. OLX 014. The deep sea cock. A totem. Support offered on 2 readings, neither adopted. The totem set it belongs to is also unrecorded. OLEX 027. Sisyphus. Attested twice. No definition. Attested in passing. No entry opened. Two machines, two readings of the two machines, how to read. Under every headword there is a line of small gray type. It is the only part of this book that is not about words, and it is the reason the book exists. The tag. MCD, the author said this. Attested in a document held on file. CL, a machine proposed this. It is not his, it never becomes his without his say-so, and it is set in a different color so the two can never be confused at a glance. Undeaf, the word is confirmed and his, and the definition is missing. Deliberately left empty. The two dates. First use is when the word entered his vocabulary. Recorded is when it entered this register. They're almost never the same, and for most entries the first is honestly unknown. A word somebody has used for years does not come with a receipt. Earlier revisions collapsed both into a single date, which quietly claimed that a vocabulary years in the making was invented on a Monday. It was not. The identifier. Each entry has a permanent number, OLX 001 onward. Identifiers are never reused and never reassigned, including when the register is reordered, and including when a headword itself changes. Rage down became rage mo and kept its number. Cite the number, not the word. What is deliberately absent? Nothing is dropped from the underlying record. Some things are kept out of this published here and are listed here so the omission is visible rather than silent. One speculation about the subject. One speculation about the subject at OLX 016, cut at the time and not reinstated. One sequence from an One speculation about the subject about the subject at Identity bindings. Which living person a color class or designation attaches to. The classes are the intellectual work and stand on their own. The bindings tie named people to addiction and crime while litigation is live. One speculation about the subject at OLX 016, cut at the time and not reinstated. One sequence from an unrelated part of the corpus, withheld entire. Revisions. Ver. Change. Version 2.0. Register opened. 17 headwords, provenance tag set, withheld material note. V2.1, 2.4. Debeaked defined with its derivation and verified source. The debeaked and the blubbery entered. Conjugation and agency rule recorded after correction by the author. V2.5, 2.6. Real string restored across 3 transcription layers. Not indeed, fox and a dot, and the dichotomy of word entered. V2.7, 2.9. Morphology of the inflection recorded. Mower verse revised by the author, down retired. V3.0, 3.1. Support offered on the deep sea cock and sys opus. Subject at OLX 016 redesignated. Proper name removed from the document in every position. Version 3.2. Structural. Permanent identifiers assigned to all 29 entries. First use and recorded dates separated. Reorganized into 5 parts with orienting introductions for a reader coming to it cold. Version 3.3. Opening description corrected. The words are dictated and machine transcribed, not spoken into a phone, which implied a telephone and a listener on the other end. Alice Lexicon Register version 3.3 compiled August 24, 2026, day 775 Anchor July 11, 2024. 29 entries, identifiers permanent. The URL is pinned to the original file path so the link survives revision.